The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you on this lovely Tuesday morning. We're in May now. Can anybody believe that? But I think of May as sort of a beginning to a new year. You know, we go through Autism Awareness, Autism Action, Autism Advocacy Month in April, and then the beginning of May for me sort of feels like a new year where we can take stock and say, well, this is where we've been, this is what we've come from, and we're about to go someplace new because it's all about progress, right? So we're going to be talking about that and a whole lot of other things today because on this show we talk about autism from a 360-degree perspective. Absolutely everything that you might encounter, no matter where you start in this autism community, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, we welcome you here. We hope that you'll be a part of this show because the entire show is meant to be interactive. We want you to participate. We want to hear from you. We want to know your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, things that you'd like to see here on the show. We love it when you guys suggest topics. So Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with us and some of the different ways that you can be watching the show. I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there are many things to do, and there are even more things than there were since the last time we saw you. So take a look up in the corner. There is a place where you can click on to go to the blog. On the blog, we've got lots of information and even a meditation, if you will, for overwhelmed parents, and we have one coming for children as well. And you can download that for free and be listening to it. It's a 10-minute meditation, help you to get yourself focused, breathing, and a little bit more calm and relaxed, right? That's a wonderful thing. I need that. So, but also if you look on the top, you'll see that there's a place where you can say join our mailing list. We've got some really exciting things that are coming to you. We do a monthly newsletter, but we have some things that we think that you're going to be really excited, and we're partnering up with some people to get you coupons and discounts on things that you might be interested in. So we encourage you to sign up for our emailing list. We're not going to sell your address to anyone, but it will make it possible for you to participate in some of these offers that we're trying to corner for you. We're always looking out for you. Also, when you are on that home page, you'll see that there is a desktop, and on the desktop sits a computer. If you click on the triangle on the computer, you can be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And then to the side are a series of white boxes. If you put your cursor in the box that says your question and you start typing, you'll hit enter, and it shows up here on my screen. There is, depending on the wind, I think, a 1 to 2 minute lag. So when we bring guests in, if you want to ask them questions, make sure you ask as early as possible. All too often, somebody will ask a question as they've left the studio. So ask your question as early as possible. If you're watching a recorded show, make sure that you reference what it is you're talking about on the show because it's free and it's anonymous. I have no way of knowing who you are or which element of the show that you were watching. If you say, I wish she was talking about this, or I want her to answer this question, I have no idea which her you're talking about unless you tell me. And I have no way of getting a hold of you. So make sure that you're as specific as possible in what you write there so that I know what to reference and attach it to, because we stay in contact with everybody who's been on the show. I can always get your question answered after the fact if I know who to ask it and I know where to find you, which brings me to my next point, which is we don't know who you are unless you tell us. And if you do tell us, we won't share that with the audience at home. We'll let you stay anonymous to everyone but us. So if you want to share that information, please feel free to, but you do not need to. All right. I always like to remind you at the start of the show that we'll have lots of experts on the show and lots of wonderful, interesting people on the show. But I always want to remind you that I am not an expert. I am a parent, and I have great interest in the field of autism because of my son, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. But I'm learning, and I get a front seat to learn with you here, but don't mistake me for an expert. And if we keep it all on that page, we'll all be happy, right? I really want to tell you, though, how privileged it feels to be here with you, because not only do I get to hear from you and learn from you, but I get to learn from the questions that you ask and the answers that our experts give. And that's something that's really... it's a privilege. I can't think of another word to describe it. In this last month, when we were out doing a lot of different activities, we got to meet more and more of you, and I can't begin to describe how luscious that is. When we were at the LA Walk, and some of you came up and gave Emily and Nancy and I big hugs, it means the world to us that you guys watch with us, that you grow with us, that you learn with us. So stay involved. Know that you are appreciated. Know that you have a huge voice here with us. And we will bring you the best possible show that we can. We always refer to ourselves as a little show that could, and we are. We are little, but we can. You know what I always say to you, si se puede, we can do this, right? All right, we like to start every morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it in our world. You know, when you start out on this journey through autism and you become a part of the autism community, there are all these words that people say, and they roll trippingly off their tongues as if they were born. They came out of the womb saying these words, and as if everyone should have been, and you think, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I don't know about you, I was so overwhelmed in the first 2 years and angry about it, thinking, why can't people just talk like the rest of us do? Why can't they put these terms in a way that we can all understand and practical, so we know, how does this apply to my life right now? I soon realized, 2 years later, that's not so soon, but I realized 2 years down the road how important it was to my well-being and to my child's progress to begin to understand these terms and to begin to be able to use them, because they're shortcuts. And if we always say, if we can save time and if we can save money, we can get more done, right? And if you have to stop to have somebody clarify what they're talking about, it takes time. And time is always going to be money in the autism world, right? So how do we do anything in this world? We do it one little bit at a time so that we don't get overwhelmed, just like when we teach our kids. I love Dr. Jonathan Tarbox always says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's what we're doing with the jargon. We give you the actual definition, and then we give you a somewhat watered down version to help you gain access to where it belongs in your life. It makes the BCBAs break out into hives sometimes, but you know, that's another fun hobby that we can participate in, right? Okay, so today's term, super important. I think one of the most important terms that we have in our lexicon. So you ready? Generalization. Now, this is one of those tricky words because we all are familiar with the term generalization, and we have a working familiarity with it. We think we know what it means, but when we're talking about it in terms of teaching and teaching an individual with autism, it's got a whole different connotation. So let's take a look at what our actual definition for generalization is. Generalization, the occurrence of relevant behavior under different non-training conditions, i.e. across subjects, settings, people, behaviors, and/or time, without the scheduling of the same events in those conditions. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we take the time to do jargon. Because if you were at a meeting and somebody said generalization and you wrote that down and say to yourself, I'm going to go look up what they're talking about, what they're referring to, because it doesn't make sense the way I'm thinking of it, and you found this would make you want to run screaming into the street with your hair on fire. Am I right? Because what does this have to do with anything? I understand all these words, but even now that I know what generalization is, this makes very little sense to me. So let's go to our working definition. Let's end the agony. Generalization, being able to apply what has been learned in new ways or situations that were never taught. Okay, this is the core of everything that we're trying to do with our kids. We want to teach them skills, right? And we have to find a way to teach them that skill so that they can actually get it, right? If they could have gotten it in the way that everybody else learned it, then they would have. They're not, so they're behind. We got to find a special way to teach it to them. And sometimes we break it down into very tiny increments to teach that skill to them. But we need for them to take that skill and make it their own. We need for them to take that skill and to be able to apply it to so many other different circumstances. And we can't possibly teach all those circumstances. That's what generalization is. We're going to teach in a very controlled manner a set of circumstances, and we're going to be very specific because we want to build towards that generalization. I always think of it as that moment from My Fair Lady or Pygmalion where they say, by George, I think she's got it, right? That moment when you've taught something in one way and the individual is able to take it and apply it in a whole bunch of other ways. I always think of the example of when my mother taught me how to drive. My mother wanted me to be able to drive anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, but she couldn't teach me how to drive everywhere in the world, right? So she taught me how to drive one car. And she started with that, but very quickly she borrowed somebody else's car to show me that it isn't just about how this car works. It's about a set of rules that help all cars to run. Maybe the shift is on the steering wheel, or maybe it's in between, but they do the same thing. And she wanted me to be able to understand that. She taught me, okay, when you come to this intersection, this is how you want to behave, because she couldn't teach me about every possible intersection, but she wanted me to generalize what she had taught so that I could apply it everywhere around the world. We want to do that with every skill that we teach a child. So you see those videos of that very DTT kind of training where they're very controlled circumstances and they're showing something to the child and they say, touch red, and the child touches red, right? And you think, wow, is that really going to help this child down the road? Well, that's just the first little step of teaching red. If we are mindful about generalization in the beginning, what we do is create an environment where we're teaching a lot of different circumstances around red. We're going to start really small so the child can get it, right? But then we're going to teach all these other things so that hopefully within a certain amount of time, the child understands the full concept of red. And they understand that sometimes red is dark red, sometimes it's orange red, sometimes it's brick red, right? They got it. And that is generalization. Every skill we teach a child, we have to be mindful from the very first lesson, how are we going to get to generalization? If we don't, we're not getting the job done. When people potty train, this is a classic mistake that people make about potty training that doesn't involve a plan for generalization. They're doing the potty training with the child and they do it in the bathroom and they set up the whole camp. They're doing everything right. The child gets it. Woohoo, we're rewarding it. We're celebrating. Woohoo, they've got the potty training. But they discover that a couple of months down the road, they're at Aunt Martha's house for a week vacation. And the child won't go to the bathroom because they're not used to going in a different bathroom than the one at home. They can't go to the bathroom at Target because it feels wrong. It feels different. They didn't plan for generalization. When we're doing really good potty training, we get it in that bathroom and very quickly we move to the upstairs bathroom. And then we borrow Aunt Betty's toilet down the street and we have them go to the bathroom there. And then we go up to Walmart and use the bathroom there. So the child begins to learn, I'm going to use this toilet, this shaped thing in many different ways, but within a very quick amount of time, they're able to use any bathroom. That's generalization, right? And we want that with absolutely everything, but we must plan from the beginning. It's too late to plan generalization after they've gotten the skill. That's too late because then we have to backtrack to get the generalization. So plan generalization from the beginning. One of the great ways of telling whether you're with a quality ABA provider is to ask them when they introduce a new lesson, how are we planning for generalization? And they should be able to tell you, boom, just like that, no thought, no shifting through papers. They should know. And if they do, that's a good sign that you're with a good ABA provider. If they don't know, that's a big, big warning flag, okay? All right, there's generalization. Key to success, generalization. We like to start every morning also with a question that we ask you guys. And our question this morning, I love this. I can't wait to see what you guys write. We want to know, what are your top 5 priorities? Now, this is something that's going to change from time to time, right? But right now, in this moment in time, what are your top 5 priorities. And this can have to do with your child on the spectrum or not, right? But what are the top 5 priorities in your life? I think you're going to find it's much harder to prioritize, but if you can squeeze 5 in, you should be able to do it. I want to hear from you guys what those priorities are. Should be fascinating. And we'll check in Facebook in a little while to see what you guys had to say. We always have a topic of the week for you. And our topic this entire week is, in fact, priorities. How do we set priorities? Are we living what our priorities are? What's fallen between the cracks? What are the things that you say, oh my gosh, I really want to do this. This is so important to me, and yet it's not happening. And what can we do to shore that up? How do we have the lives that we want to? I know that sometimes when autism comes to live at your house, it feels like your priorities shift, because kind of they do, right? But does that mean that everything goes out the window? I don't think so. But priorities shift and you say, here's what's important to me. I think it's a way of clarifying. It certainly had that effect on our family when we realized that we needed to do more for our son than we needed to do, than we had planned on doing. And we got more focused. And in some ways, there's a huge gift in that. But you got to take the time. You got to know what the priorities are, and then you got to find the way to live them. And all of us can do better on that. And I mentioned, May is sort of this start over month, right? You may have made those New Year's resolutions that have gone poof, right? Or maybe you're making progress on them and it's time to up the ante, right? But great time to be talking about priorities. What are we doing in this moment in time? What are we trying to achieve? Are we getting there? Is it what's really important to us? We're going to talk about that all week long this week, and I'm excited about it. To that end, some of the different things that we have here on the show today, so excited about this particular show. We're going to start out with 2 remarkable guests. You're just going to love them. I know if you were watching the show last week, we debuted, I think it was last Tuesday, we debuted from Autism Speaks. They have a new set of commercials that are playing. It's a series of 4 different commercials. The whole thing together is called Lifetime of Difference. And it's kind of fascinating, and we'll show it here in just a second. But they start with a baby, and they're showing different moments in life that are all part of an autism family, and different products are featured throughout them, which I really kind of love. There's a normalcy about it that's really luscious. But you see this baby, and you see the concerned parents, and the fact that they're talking to a doctor, and the doctor is saying you're dealing with autism, and you see this lifetime of difference when we get that early diagnosis. Well, the final scene in it is the dad with his son graduating. I see that's going to make me emotional, because it's one of those things that we all want to picture, right? And we all want to get to. And this commercial does it just so beautifully. It's very touching. I don't know anybody that's an autism parent that didn't watch it and didn't get choked up. And then you find out that the actor playing the dad and the actor playing the son are real life they're real life dad and son. They are actors too, but they are real life father and son. And it is a young man who is on the autism spectrum, and that they've got their very own story. So we have them here. How exciting is that? It's Andrew and Reece Bowen, and they are here, and they're going to be with us in just a minute and talk a little bit about their journey and about being a part of this landmark commercial, but telling their story about how they've gotten to this point. And they're remarkable. I got an opportunity to talk to them earlier, and what a treat. You are in for a huge treat. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about planning for the future. How do we make a lifetime of difference? How do we use our priorities to make sure that we get where we want to get, so that we can have that dream ending, whatever it is, for our individual families? And our very special guest in the next hour, Todd Daniel, is going to be here with us. He's from Mass Mutual. Mass Mutual is the only company that I'm aware of that has a very specific program that they put their employees through, and it's called the Special Care Planning Program. They're put through a rigorous training to be able to sit down with parents and answer questions when we've got kids who have special needs, whatever they may be, whether they're on the autism spectrum or they have other issues, being able to plan across our lifetime and their lifetime, because so often we are not going to outlive our children, and that is a huge fear for all of us. But having a plan and being able to sit down with people who have been trained to deal with the issues that we need to talk about and to understand some of the emotional difficulties with it, it's a huge opportunity for us. And by the way, they give a free consultation. So Todd's going to be with us to talk about what happens, what kind of training they go through, and what happens when you do a consultation with a special care planner. And over the weekend, I was watching a new program that is on HBO, and it's a news program. I think it's called This Week, where it's a news they talk about what happened the whole week before. What is it called, Emily? Last Week Tonight. Okay, what would I do without Emily? Okay, so very funny gentleman who hosts the show. And he wanted to talk about capital punishment. And he said, I know this is a subject nobody wants to talk about, so here's the deal I'm going to make with you. If we can talk about this at the very end, I'm going to show you the hilarious video that's been all over this week that shows little hamsters eating little burritos. And we'll have some mindless entertainment if you will hang out with me, and we'll talk about capital punishment. Well, I was howling because what a perfect example of ABA, offering a reward for this thing that you don't necessarily want to do. And I thought, this is silly. We should be doing this here on the show. So I know that none of you really wants to talk about how we get through this discussion about what happens if we die and what happens to our child, right? It's unpleasant. Nobody wants to do it. But we need to. As good parents, we need to have this conversation. So I talked with Emily, and we're going to show a fun video at the end of the show today when we're all done talking to Todd, and we've talked about all the unpleasant things, right? And he's going to make it as nice as possible. But when we're all done, Emily's going to show you Keyboard Kitty. The most ridiculous, nonsensical, fun kitty videos that has gone viral on the web. You're not going to want to miss it. It is your reward today for hard work talking about planning for what happens to our kids and with our kids when we're no longer here. So that's in the next hour, right? But we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring Andrew and Reece Bowen in. You're going to love them, so stick with us.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching a child
what to do if they get lost.
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass. Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she don't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan, plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid.
Yeah, I've got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
Right?
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud,
Right.
and if that doesn't work, then,
I don't know.
well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Go to a vendor, you know, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real-world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it. So you'd go over the rules and tell them, like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practiced.
You never
It's not gonna
practice.
happen.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a, a little skit with them.
Like a
Kinda
role play.
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost. I don't know where my mom is. And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like, good job, you did it.
Like reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning, reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in a ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right.
Done?
High five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first, yes, this woman, yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman wins. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so thrilled because we have 2 very special gentlemen here in the studio with us. We have Andrew and Reece Bowen. They are the stars of the new Autism Speaks commercial, Lifetime of Difference.
Yeah.
You guys deliver that emotional punch at the end. We're going to show it in a couple of minutes, but we showed it last week as well.
Yeah.
You do an amazing job in this film. It's a mini film. It's a commercial, but it is a mini film. It shows, it kind of depicts a child across a lifetime and what a difference early intervention makes. And I know the first time I watched it, I said, "Oh, this is lovely. I love what they did." And then the real kicker was to find out that you, the actors, have a real life story that has to do with autism.
Yeah.
So first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much for
Andrew,
having
the
us.
dad, and Reece, the son.
Hello.
And Reece, how old are you?
15.
15 years old, because in the ad, I was even thinking it was college graduation.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, because, like, you know, they aged me and stuff for it. That I think that, you know, if whatever has the most impact for a person, I think it's actually kind of cool that some people could take it as college or high school, because either one of them is just a huge thing for parents with, you know, kids on the spectrum. So.
But you sell that. You look like a very mature young man who's graduating from whatever. It's a fabulous moment. But you are real life dad and son. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Rhys, you were diagnosed with autism?
Yep.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
He was diagnosed when he was just about 4.
4, okay.
And
which is the average age, we understand.
Yeah.
Of course, that the whole purpose of that ad is that we're trying to get to a younger age.
Right.
But diagnosed at 4. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about what that was like for you as a dad when he was diagnosed. He's your oldest child.
He's our first and our oldest. We had he's got brother and sister that are twins that are 2 years younger than him. So we actually, you know, even when the twins were born, we still didn't really know. I mean, Rhys was, you know, it was, again, with every kid, it's so different.
Absolutely.
You know, Rhys had great eye contact, and he was very social, but, you know, he had a pretty strong speech delay.
Okay.
And it was just little stuff, and, you know, I think as a parent, you know, you're also just, it's almost like you don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, not that we didn't do that, but we kept on, you know, digging and trying to figure out what was out there and what was going on, and eventually we decided to, you know, get him seen, and we got him diagnosed. Because at the time, you got to remember, this is like 2002. There wasn't what you have today.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, there was nothing out there. You didn't have shows like this. You didn't have these websites that could give you all this information.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
I think Autism Speaks was just starting, or hadn't quite
like
started.
They had done like maybe 2 walks. I mean, I remember us doing the first walks, and so, you know, it was at that point that, you know, my wife and I just, you know, you became advocates. You got to become almost the teacher. And we just researched everything and did everything in our power to sort of, you know, say, you know, we're going to do everything we can to give him the best shot and what he needs. And so, and I mean, we ended up, you know, seeing an osteopath, and we did thermal brain scans. We had, you know, we wanted to do it a sort of a natural approach first, and but he had, you know, 30 hours of ABA and speech therapy a week, plus he was going to school, and he was just a superstar. And I mean, you know, on top of that, I mean, the real credit goes to Rhys, because he just did it. You know, I mean, there was a time when, you know, he was taking natural supplements, because we put him on a casein and gluten-free diet, which was huge for him. I mean, he literally started talking like 2 weeks later. He didn't really speak any words until he was 5.
It's so important for parents to hear that. I know there's a lot of controversy around GFCF, and we know that it doesn't have that much of an impact on every single child,
Every
right?
child is different,
But for the kids that do have an impact from it, sometimes it's huge.
Yeah.
And you described that it wasn't talking or barely talking, and then went on the diet and saw sort of lights came on in terms of speech. Big change.
And it helped his stomach issues, and but again, you know, I mean, that's the thing too, that, you know, I always try to say, and my wife too, that there's no one answer. There's you've got to try everything, and basically, you know, it's the combination of stuff that ends up working well for some and not for others, you know. And we just found what worked for Rhys, and when something didn't work, we went to the next one, and we added that in, but he went through it. I mean, he was like 9, taking like literally 30 vitamin supplements a meal.
Yeah.
And he's good at taking pills now. And then, you know, he was the one who just, you know, kept on pushing forward, and you know, and we just, you know, you become their advocates, and Renee and I are Rhys's advocates, and we always will be, and you know, and now it's just, you know, he's so surpassed.
He's remarkable. I mean, let's say it. He's remarkable. You
and
are
very
remarkable.
handsome.
And he is very handsome. And we're gonna take a break to watch the commercial, but just to give people an idea, you're 15 years old. You're in high school, and what are your interests, Rhys?
I have an interest in computers.
Yeah. And I hear you're incredibly good at them.
Oh yeah. Some people might not understand it, but many people in my school know me very well about that stuff.
It's incredible. And you were telling me before that you work on a really fast computer. You were using words that I don't even begin to understand. How fast is your computer?
For those techie geeks out there, that it has a 3.4 gigahertz speed, and I'm running a GeForce GTX 660 graphics card on it.
Yeah, a bunch of Greek.
Which he built, basically. I mean, he wanted to have a fast computer, and so they didn't really have it out there. So he researched all the parts. We had all the parts shipped, and then, you know, I think there's pictures of it there. There's all the parts shipped, and then 2 hours later, he's got this.
Wow.
You know, basically, you know, the Starship Enterprise in his room. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So, yeah, and he's, you know, and right now, because he's so, you know, comfortable, like, tech seems to be his language.
Right.
He's already been doing tech support, too, for, like, people around, you know, in Santa Clarita where we live, where he'll go in and you know,
consult and help them.
You know, get rid of viruses, you know, upgrade software.
I needed you last night, Reece. We have a new laptop, and I was trying to get Word downloaded onto it, and I couldn't figure it out because it's a new computer. And I was saying, why don't we have someone that we can just call? So I'm going to have to make sure I get your number so I can have you consult with
Call
us.
Blue Wizard.
There we go.
That's the man.
And so that's what you're called, Blue Wizard.
Well, that's your.
That's my username.
Okay.
That's like my.
That's your Twitter handle.
Like my little character name.
Okay, it's your branding. It's your branding.
My branding.
Blue Wizard, I love it. Well, I want our audience to be able to see this commercial that you guys did, and to see the lovely acting jobs, so that we can talk about that and some more about your journey. So let's take a look. This is Autism Speaks' new commercial, and it's called Lifetime of Difference.
Learn the early signs of autism today, because an early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Hey, I made your favorite.
With real egg noodles and bite-sized chicken, Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup is the one kids love. Mmm, good.
Come and get this on.
Thanks. Stream your favorite content when you want. AT&T.
He didn't speak till he was almost 5. There's a time when my wife and I just didn't think we'd ever have a conversation with him, and now he can build and program computers from scratch. We kind of really consider Rhys a huge success story.
Sounds like you got a pretty good dad too.
Yeah,
he is a really awesome dad.
Welcome back. A really beautiful commercial, and we have with us the actors that you just saw, Andrew and Reece Bowen. Amazing job that you guys just did. Wave to mom. Okay, so really lovely. How did this come?
It was a beautiful spot.
It is.
Well, Peter and Michael, who were the creatives on this, they actually spent almost 2 years trying to put this project together with Autism Speaks, and because, you know, they had this idea, it was this great idea of sort of blending all these different products but making it be very subtle and sort of do a bigger picture, which I think, you know, they succeeded fantastically in. But it's really a testament to AT&T and Campbell's and Band-Aid to agree to this, because, you know, it was one of those things that they went to them and they said, would you allow us to sort of put your, you know, allow you to sort of
But
be
it's
a part
really
of this?
smart for them too.
Well,
Come on.
yeah,
I mean, it's
true.
wonderful that they're participating, but it's really smart of them, because we all go lovely home products
Right,
and
right.
associated with this wonderful
Right,
message.
right.
It's smart on their part.
Yeah, and Christian, the director, and Michael Rosen too from Autism Speaks was there, and it was just it was really good. And they had a lot of attention to detail. It was really great too, because when I was there too, they kept on checking in with me too and saying, "Is this right?" And is this maybe? And it was they were very conscious of being. They were just conscious mindful of everybody, and walking quietly to not crack glass, so to speak. And I think they did a terrific job.
Now you look so different in the end of the commercial. So are you the dad in each one of the four? Because I was not putting that together and looking at you, because you look more like the young dad, and then they aged you significantly for the end.
Yes, yeah.
Like your face looks fuller.
Oh yeah.
He kind of freaked me out. It's funny because when he showed up, because I had 2 days, I had to shoot for the first day, and then on the second day he showed up, and they had, they had full prosthetics. It was like at least an hour or so, or an hour more that they put it on there, and I it was kind of frightening too. Wow, that's where I'm headed.
It was pretty horrific.
Moisturizer.
Was it when you looked at him? Did he look like your dad?
Yeah, but significantly older.
A lot
at elderly age.
And did they age you a little bit, because you look like we were saying? But you look older when I see you now, but you looked older then too, and mature. You were portraying maturity, which was lovely. So was it fun to work together in that way?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
It's pretty fun to do that.
Now, obviously, you are a very successful and trained actor, and you've been doing this for a long time. But had you ever done acting before, Reece?
Nope.
So this was the first time, a national commercial. No jealousy on your part, right?
Not at all. No, it was great. Actually, Petite, which is the casting company that did it. I've been working in the commercial, community for a long time, done a lot of them, and they knew me and they knew about Reece, so they were the ones who were really when they said, we're doing this, you should come in and bring Reece. So they were really instrumental in making that happen. They were great girls over there.
I can't imagine that they could have found a better situation, because you do look incredibly young to have a child this old. So the fact that they could actually age you.
I'm tipping her.
I take checks. But no, I'm seriously, they could have, I'm sure that they could have found many dads. I'm thinking, my husband's an actor and we have a 10-year-old son, but my husband looks like he would have the 22-year-old kid at best. And they couldn't, honey, if you're watching, don't take offense, but they couldn't have, it's much harder to make somebody look younger than it is to make them look older. So here you have this very youthful appearance, and you've actually got a son who's old enough.
Looks like he's 18 or
exactly.
I guess for those who take it on as being college. So it was a good match, and it was just lucky. And he was, I remember, when they asked him when he wanted to do it, my wife Renee was driving him to town, and she said, are you sure you want to do this? Because this was about him being comfortable, and he said that, yeah, Mom, I really want to do this commercial because I want people to know how awesome kids with autism are.
There you go.
And to never give up. And that came from his mouth, which is,
lovely.
He's...
You're going to make me cry, Reece.
Hey, I should have said that. You took my line.
I took your line?
You stole my line.
Stealing his thunder. But so, now, does this mean you might do more acting? Are you interested in doing more, or was this a one-time thing, Reece?
I'll do it again if I like to, but that's kind of not... But acting is not too much of my interest.
Yeah, you're more interested in the tech things and being the blue wizard. I love it.
Yeah.
And so when you graduate from high school, what do you think you're going to go off to college? Do you think you're going to go right into the tech sector? What's the dream job that you want to have?
I'm still thinking about that.
Okay. I like that. That's a good answer. And more people should say that.
Yeah,
I'm still thinking about it.
Keep the options open.
I think that it's remarkable. We can see how close the two of you are. And I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about, because not very often that we can get a dad to come in and talk. And to talk about what the teen years are like. But obviously you guys have a great rapport. What is it that you're doing that's right? And Andrew, tell us what you're doing that's right. And Reece, tell us what he does that you think is good.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start? He's about to throw me under the bus.
Are you going to throw Dad under the bus? Is he a wacky dad? He seems like a fun dad.
What do you like about me as a dad?
I think you're pretty cool. You're funny. You're a pretty good guy, and sometimes a bit of a goofball, but
that's a good thing.
Can be pretty, but always entertaining. Always entertaining.
Making love. There's a lot. He's a pretty big goofball himself too. So,
it's important.
Laughter's important.
It's the best medicine, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think you've done right?
I don't know. I mean, I think every parent thinks that they always think about what they've done wrong and what they've done right.
Well, that's a sign of being a good parent.
I think what. First off, I have to mention that my wife, Renee Bowen, is the saint here. She's the one the reason he is where he is, and we have done what we have done is for her.
And she's also a brilliant photographer.
Yeah, amazing photographer. I think we're going to show some of her stuff.
Yeah.
She's actually recognized.
Take a look at that. Beautiful.
Recognized nationally. She's one of the top people out there. But I think that. I think that what I'd like to say that we've done right, and I think we've done this with all of our kids, is we never forgot to make love the most powerful moment of us, and of our raising our kids. Is he never once thought that he wasn't loved, and it's. I think we've made sure that family was important, and at the same point, we also made a decision, especially when we found out early that we weren't really going to necessarily treat Reece differently than we treated the other kids in the family. So if he messed up with something, he had to have consequences for that too.
But you've never made a mistake or never done anything improper, have you,
right?
Reece?
No. No, really, we really hasn't. But I think too, because his brother and sister are, they're typical there, and I think that they've also been a huge part of this, because Reece has learned so much about social interaction and stuff, just being around his brother and sister.
Yeah, built-in playmates every day.
Yeah, they do, and they get along well, and we make sure that mistakes are okay. You don't learn anything in life if you don't make mistakes, and to just keep pushing forward. And it's like as much as we would push him, and we still do, because it's a constant. I think it's a sort of a forever road. We've always made sure that we gave Reece time to just do his thing.
Okay.
It's a balancing thing. It wouldn't like, even when he was doing his, the ABA 30 hours a week and everything else like that, we'd have days when we'd be like, hey, you want to go in your room and just do whatever you want for a couple hours? We let him. Okay. It wasn't like we wouldn't let him sort of, find out who he is, because I think that the autism doesn't define him. In fact, he's more of the one who makes it shine. And honestly, we've learned way more from him than anything else.
Remarkable.
It's amazing when it's the little things. Because I think when you have a child in the spectrum, when you normally are going to have kids, you think about college and football and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, I want them to be able to have a conversation. I want them to be able to have a job, to laugh, fall in love. And so these little moments are the ones that are huge. I mean, I just remember even being there on the set with him and going, wow, I couldn't have a conversation with him when he was 5. Yeah. And now here he is taking direction from a director and walking in. And so, it's little stuff like that. And he works hard. He really, he's the one who works the hardest here, and he hasn't quit or given up either. So
let's take another short break, and then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about school and the kinds of things that you're looking at right now at the age of 15, and what concerns you might have. We just recently interviewed Holly Robinson Peete, and she talked about the teen years as being the most horrifying, terrifying thing. And I think that's what it is, no matter whether your child has ever heard the term autism.
Yeah.
So I'm staring down the barrel of that, so I want to know more about this. So stick with us. More of Reece and Andrew Bowen after these messages.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think
about that one?
Trying to,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
autism, autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're having a really good time because here in the studio with us, you're going to sneak in, it's photobombing. We have Andrew and Reece Bowen. We're having a very good time. As Reece said, his dad, Andrew, is a bit of a goofball sometimes, and we kind of like that, is what we decided, right? He's an okay guy. And we're really enjoying having you here, Reece. It's not often that we get to have somebody your age. I'm still getting over the fact that you're 15 because you look older to me. But I wanted to talk a little bit about school, and you're in high school now, but you're going to a charter school.
Yes, a project-based charter school.
A project-based. So what does it mean when it's project-based? Like, do you go to school and you have English, and then you have social studies, and then you have a class where you get to work on a project, or what's your day like?
Basically, most of the time it's about, like, you know, it's not like there's always work in every class. There's always, it's just, let me put it this way, as in, not just too much work. It's sometimes we have projects that comes in 2 classes, like history and English, both 2 projects that we're putting together.
So you put the 2 of them together.
And we have our own personal project. Right now we're talking about sustainability in our class.
Oh, okay. So are you working on a project about sustainability?
Yeah.
And so what is your sustainability project? What are you doing?
Well, I'm thinking about what could help us, and think about what would probably fix out our energy crisis that has been going on, like how much oil and fuel and like petroleum we've been using, and how to find ways of alternative energy that doesn't require most of that.
I'm fascinated because I have a feeling that you could come up with a much better idea of what we should be using instead of those fossil fuels than probably anybody else, Reece.
It's like we become too addicted to it now.
Yeah, I agree. Really remarkable. Well, it's people like you who are going to change our world. It's that kind of thinking that we need. Because the rest of us are putting gas in our tank and not even thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah. The kids growing up today are going to change the future.
That's absolutely true. And so, and you're going to the same school that your 2 siblings are going to, is that correct?
Yes.
And is it... I had asked you earlier, because a lot of people will come in and talk about what happens in the schools, and they'll talk about bullying. But you were saying that there really isn't much room for bullying at your school.
We have a pretty well-placed policy about bullying, and we are pretty good about minimizing that amount. It ain't a standard school.
Okay, so it's kind of remarkable in that way. That do you think that's because people get to work on what they want to work on?
Well, it's all about working together, and basically if you're with a person and you're in a group working together, it's all about collaboration, you know.
lot of collaboration.
I think that that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. And so for you, Dad, you know, getting ready to start school, did you have some trepidation about what it was going to be like and if people were, that he was going to be bullied? My son has already been bullied.
Right.
So I have concerns about what, if it's like that in grade school, what it's going to be like in high school. Did you worry about that, or were you?
You know, yeah. I mean, you worry about that anyways. You know, I think that the school that he goes to, they've always been. There's a sense of empathy in the school, and everybody's very. I mean, you always say that, you know, people are really supportive, and
yeah, there's a lot of great people in my school. They are very supportive. They are there for you, especially the teachers. They care about the students and the students in their classes, and if a student needs help, they will help him or her.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the bullying thing, it's almost interesting because, like, they just don't put up with it there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's going to be different for different schools. Just where he is right now, you know, that's not so much of an issue. And I think Rhys, you know, is, you know, he's a good kid, and he's very nice, and I think that, you know, he's got more friends and more people that, you know, appreciate him
than the previous schools I've been to.
Okay.
You know, and so you know, that luckily hasn't been an issue. And I mean, I guess the other thing too is, I mean, Rhys is, you know, he's almost 5'9". He's 165, 70 pounds. He's not a little kid, so I think that's an issue with it too. And
you carry yourself like a mature adult. I mean, you do, and I think that goes a long way too. That you look like somebody who knows what you're doing, and you do have a really open personality that I think a lot of people are just really thrilled to meet you.
And we've also sort of tried to, especially with Rhys and the kids, just, you know, a lot of times that, you know, with bully, it usually comes from that individual and insecurity level on that individual because they don't understand, you know, and that a lot of times, like, even, you know, his younger brother, our youngest Seth, was dealing with someone for a while, and eventually he got to know him, and he went, gosh, he's really insecure, he's got some problems at home. And I'm like, you know, so sometimes when like bullying happens, it's interesting because they'll look at it in a way of going, they feel sorry for that person, because obviously there's got to be something going on, because it doesn't just come from an idea in their head, it usually comes from the environment around them.
But amazing that you have a school that supports that, because that's the rarity, I think.
Yeah, and it's not like they just, you know, penalize somebody for it.
Right.
They bring them in, they sit them down with the teachers, and they say, okay, what's going on? And sure enough, they dig through all the garbage, and they find out what's really going on, and it ends it. So it's very lucky on that case. We're very...
The school the teachers help you stay organized. And it's not all about clutter. You do not get excessive amount of work. You just stay organized with your work, and they all help you with that. And it's not like you always have homework all the time. It's very minimal. Our school does not believe in homework.
Well, and you were saying to me before that it's not that you're not working hard, it's just that you're working hard at the things you want to work at, so that there's no need to do homework. That was the thing that struck me when we were talking before, was that it's the high-level stuff that you're working on is actually pretty amazing. We don't want to give anybody the impression that you're doing just a small amount of little work. They're working on some pretty incredible things. You were saying that they're doing a Civil War reenactment.
The 8th grade is doing a Civil War reenactment, and they're building the costumes, and they have to create who their person was, the individual, so they've had to research what their life was like. So, you know, it's teaching it. That's what project-based learning is all about. And it's fascinating because it just makes kids' minds just open up.
It's not studying to be able to do the multiple choice. You're living it, creating it, being a part, getting inside it.
It's teaching these kids how to be leaders for themselves and being driven by, you know, what inspires them. And I think that's part of the reason why he's encouraged to go, hey, do you want to do a project,
where you're
on
building
something,
your
and
own
he's
computer.
building his own computer.
It's pretty amazing at 15.
Yeah, it's research. You're planning, they're putting it together, and
then the magic happens, right? Pretty incredible. So, what are the big challenges right now?
Well, I mean, it's, again, the social aspect of stuff is definitely, an issue. And, I think with any kid, you know, high school it's still overwhelming. There's still some
It's a social minefield for anybody.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is, and you know, it's you know, we definitely have days when, you know, everybody gets overwhelmed, and Reece will get overwhelmed too. I think we got you a stress ball recently that you said helped. You know, the great thing about the ABA and all the early intervention stuff with him is that, you know, when Reece is in or having a moment, at least he's in a position where he'll go, I just need to take a break.
Yeah.
You know, I wish we could all do that.
You have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable. I've always said that if we could all have gone through ABA training to understand when we're having an emotion and what to do with it, it'd be a better world.
Yeah.
My son will say to me, Mom, I think you're feeling frustrated right now. And I won't necessarily know in the moment. I'll be like, and he'll say, you know, I think you're feeling frustrated. And I go, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, having a language for it, pretty amazing, especially for young men. I don't know any other program that teaches young men all those different things, you know? Really remarkable. So you did a lot of dietary things, you did a lot of, you looked at it biomedically, you did ABA.
We had thermal brain scans, you know, we had Amy Yasko, we got into homeopathy, Hahnemann homeopathy, the lady named Veronica Coyne, and which we've all been on. Just, you know, even with the casein gluten-free with Reece, we really went hardcore for about a year.
Yeah.
And then we sort of let him sort of reintroduce some of that into his system, and he was fine. So it was interesting for me.
So you're not GFCF anymore?
Not
do you have
completely.
gluten-free?
No,
Okay.
I mean, we do definitely, you know, we try to do it as much as possible.
Okay.
But what we found, at least with our experience with Reece, was that it was almost like by pulling it away, his body was able to heal, to be able to process those elements again.
And,
you know,
and
what's
a
what I
lot of
tell
people find that.
Yeah, and so, you know, because that's the thing is, you know, we wanted to introduce some of that stuff afterwards, and he was fine.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, you know, some kind of healing process had taken place. You know, it's like anything, you build up an immunity to something, and I think when you're overwhelmed.
Something in the studio today, I said I was tongue-tied earlier.
I'm tongue-tied earlier.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I felt like earlier. It's something in the lights today. We have gremlins in the studio from time to time. Emily has them pop up on the screen.
Nice.
But if there's a family who's watching and they're seeing that commercial and seeing the lifetime of difference, and then they're tuning in to watch this, what would you say to them if they're just starting out? What would you encourage them to do?
Yeah, I guess my main thing would be don't freak out.
Yeah.
It's not a death sentence.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, he's a grand example of that.
Yeah.
You know, I can imagine he's an amazing kid.
Anybody would be thrilled to have him as their son.
There's so much out there that the best thing that I could say for new parents is take a deep breath, relax, and just start becoming the teacher, you know? Check everything out there, you know, really, really don't just listen to what one person has to say, listen to the entire field. And you'll get great information. I mean, I remember that years ago we went to an autism conference, Renee and I, and Temple Grandin was speaking. And afterwards we went up and talked to her, and we just asked her, she said, if you could give us any advice at all, you know, what could it be? And she said, they're gonna be really bad at a lot of things, and they're gonna be really, really good at one thing. So she said, when you find out what that is, encourage it, which is what we did with Reece, because he started having this intonation for technology, and so we have, you know, fed it. And because of that, it's just, he's blossomed into this thing that I consider him like
I'm always learning new stuff every day.
Yeah.
And he's a pro. I mean, literally, if I'm having problems with my computer, I'm looking at getting a new computer now, and I'm like, you just tell me what to buy, and I'm gonna buy it.
And you seem happy, Reece. Are you happy?
Yeah.
And on the list of things, as you were saying before, you know, I want to be able to have a conversation with him. I want him to, you know, be able to have a job. I want him to be able to have friends. We want them to be happy.
Yeah.
That's, you know, kind of at the top of the list. We've been talking about priorities this week.
And patience. Be happy, but also be patient. You got to remember, I think, like the biggest asset you can have as a parent is you gotta learn to just breathe, because it's gonna happen slower. It's not gonna happen overnight.
There is no rush.
That's right. There is no rush.
You know, and it's like, you know, it's the development on certain aspects of things are going to be slower than other kids, and they're going to be advanced in other sides.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess, you know, for parents out there is that just don't quit. If something doesn't work, find something else that works. There's stuff out there, you know, and you know, we tried a lot of stuff, and, you know, the approach that we did, the sort of natural approach, was phenomenal for him. It may not be for someone else, because I know that, I mean, we have friends who have children who are completely, you know, nonverbal.
It's not one. It's not one size fits all.
And it doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just keep trying, because there's enough people out there and there's enough support out there that if you just stay proactive, you know, you've got to be your kid's biggest advocate. And as long as you stay proactive, you're going to find the things that work.
Yeah.
So just don't give up, because they're not going to give up. Reece doesn't give up.
Well, you guys have a great... Never give up.
Remember that. Never give up.
That's right. You guys have a great story. We've so enjoyed talking to you. I can't wait to see what you guys both do. I think you have a book in you. I've seen your writing, and I think you've got a book that you're going to have to write.
Yeah.
And I've said that to other people before, but so I'm just going to give you that little kick.
All right, I'm going to give you the call when it started.
You will. So many people have gotten book deals. It will happen. But really, because you got a story to tell here, and we can't wait to see what you do. And at some point, I want to introduce my son to you so that he can meet you. You're a great role model for so many of the kids out there. And also, you know, we have to have your wife on at some point, because I'm sure she and I will get to be old friends.
She again, I'll say it again, she's the real hero here.
Well, but, you know, I think that you're a great role model for dads, too, staying involved, keeping a sense of humor about it, and learning all things that are key. We love your commercial, and now we're thrilled because now we love you, too. So,
and we're thrilled to be a part of it and to put a message out there that's
awesome.
You know, positive for people. So
and for those of you watching, if you have questions for them down the road, feel free to send them in, and we'll forward them off to them. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Shannon, for having us.
We're going to take a short break. We've gone way past. I'm just looking at the clock and seeing how late it is. We're going to go now to The A Word, which is an ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders that follows a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And you can see some of that early intensive behavioral intervention as they go into his home and see what this is like for him, for his parents, and for his little sister. When we come back, we're going to come back and we'll have the fabulous Todd Daniel is going to be with us talking about how we plan for the unthinkable when we're not here anymore and our kids still are. I know it's a tough conversation, but we need to have the conversation, and we've promised you a treat if you'll hang out and get through that tough conversation with us. Emily is going to play for you Keyboard Kitty, one of those viral videos that is, we promise you, will make you laugh. That's your reward for sticking through the tough conversation. And Todd's going to make the tough conversation a little bit easier. But first, the A word.
Okay, now you try doing it. So it's same. Go ahead. Go with same. Like this. Watch. That's put with same. You try. Put with same. Right here. Yeah, there he goes. That's the same. It's a helicopter. Very good.
If you're going to describe like ABA to another parent, what would it be?
The whole point of ABA is that you teach him how to teach himself. And I don't know that is necessarily, I guess I didn't realize that was supposed to happen from the beginning. I thought that now it was all a lot of work with him, and then later he would start to figure out how to do it for himself, but he's already doing it. And you know, repetition is the underlying thing, because for, I think, young kids in general, but certainly with kids with autism, it takes them a little more time.
Touch car. No, try again. Try again, okay? Yeah. touch it though. Touch car. Good. What is it? What is this? What is this? Yes, car. Okay.
And I don't think we completely appreciate how much work he's doing to learn, because it's normal for us too. I mean, this is what he has to do to learn these things, so it's now become normal for us.
It's still hard to sit out here and listen to the monitor and hear them repeatedly ask him to do something where he's upset and he's crying, but it always works out. It's a reminder of just don't give up, because he always eventually accomplishes what they're asking, and then I hear the reward. I hear him jumping up and down and them cheering.
You have the monitor, so you know what's happening. Does that make a huge difference for you?
I like to know. It was hard at first to hear him, have a problem.
Yeah, it's easy when he's doing great to have the monitor. It's hard when he's struggling and crying.
And in the beginning, it was hard too, because.
Well, I always thought at the beginning, should I go help?
That's how we did it, because we had speech therapy and occupational therapy to start with, and if he cried, then we made it better, and we were encouraged to make it better. If he was crying with the speech therapist, something wasn't right. It was different when ABA started. Crying was sort of part of the game.
Yeah, I met a guy who at not an ABA thing, orientation that basically told me ABA, yeah, they're paid to piss your kid off. So I tried to remember that. They're paid to piss him off.
Right, when he noticed one day, like, he was really pissed off, and that was because he wanted to poop. And,
Yeah,
you know?
that was actually a rough day for us, because we felt like we'd abused him almost. That we really.
I mean, I got what she was trying to do with him. I understood that he wasn't being compliant, but then once we realized what it was that he wanted, it was just
he just wanted a moment to go sit in a corner, and like us adults, we would say see ya, but no.
Well, and I took him back, and when I was changing him, the whole conversation he and I had was, all you have to do is tell us, and I had him repeat 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that was a bad day though for us, because we felt like we had let him down.
Well, and
do you think?
And how and I've thought about it probably a dozen times.
He must have been miserable. He was really upset, and.
But would it have been the right thing for us to rescue him and be like, what, can we just let him go? And I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, we didn't think of it, and they didn't think of it. We didn't
know.
We didn't know what he was trying to do, and
we didn't know if he was just being ornery or if.
but it's a thought now. That's as hard as he'd fought anything for a long time.
I sat there even thinking that it's like, what, it's hard, and it's somebody else's kid, and mom and dad are sitting right here, and he's screaming, and she had to keep doing it to show him what it was that she wanted him to do.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, and I respect that.
Yeah, she had a hard time, I'm sure. It's got to enter their mind that mom and dad are right here, and I'm pushing him so hard that he's I almost heard a couple 4-letter words from a kid who doesn't talk really. But
that was good for us to see too, that it's like, because we don't know how far to push him when he's behaving.
But we also have to remember that we're the parents, and that maybe there's something else going on. That's a lesson there for us, is that maybe we should have next time.
We've even acted differently since then, that if we see him going into the corner, we're trying to give him words, to tell us what it is that he's doing, so that the next time something like that happens, if he needs a minute, that he can
I never thought I'd have
it.
this conversation, but you just, Jack, can you just say poop? I'm pooping. Can you say that? And it's that would never happen again if he gets that skill. That would never happen again. Daddy, you gotta poop, or daddy poop, or whatever. Mommy poop.
Like kids.
He's getting there.
Kids do, and he's
learning.
He's definitely learning to value in words.
Yes, he is. He's learning that he gets not necessarily everything he wants. He gains from his vocabulary now. He gains specifics.
How about you guys? Like, you talk about how he's adjusting and getting better. How have you guys been adjusting to diagnosis, the therapy, the
We're good.
30 hours over top of your 30 hours?
We're good.
It's all good.
No. I'm just physically tired. That's other than that. Strangers that used to come into our house are now friends. It's not the same thing.
And I think it's become our normal. I don't think we would be well, we'd be sad for obvious reasons if it ended, because we want our son to get all the help that he can get. But yeah, to have a week without people coming in, I think would be like really cool.
We'd be okay with it. But having said that, we love everybody that comes into our house.
And it just is what it is, and we see such progress in him that I don't think the inclination to be free is strong enough to override the inclination to continue to watch his progress.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, if we're being completely honest, and this is the hard part of the honest part, but they help us. We've gotten great advice, and if we have issues, we can ask, and we have somebody to ask every single day, and that's all good. But on the flip side, there are definitely the days too where it's like, do we do anything right?
Yeah. There's days where
there's too many suggestions where it's like
suggestions are. It's easy to suggest when you spend 2 hours or 3 hours with somebody and go home or go to another child. Well, I got him for the next 21 hours too after you leave. Sometimes there's too many suggestions, and they don't mean anything negative.
No, I mean, some of the suggestions, even if you roll your eyes and when you first get it, like, pause this movie and see if he'll take a bite. Yeah, right, sure he will. And then he does.
Yeah.
So we've learned enough,
which
too.
Which kind of pisses you off.
It's like, wait a minute.
It kind of pisses me off when they're right all the time.
But I did the pausing.
Yeah, I paused it.
I did.
You didn't pause it. I did. And every once in a while we'll whisper under our breath, really. And then it works usually. So it's just a defense mechanism, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, or we feel like Jack, I think sometimes too, that we've lost a lot of control of our world these days.
I'm enjoying him much more because he's not as scary to me. As I learn more about autism and about his steps forward, it's less intimidating to me. As we get more skills on how to deal with the rough times, it's less intimidating to me. And I pick him up, he puts his head on my shoulder for 25 seconds, and that's like my favorite 25 seconds. And then of course he looks around, and then I put him down, but for 25 seconds he just puts his head here, which he doesn't always do. Lately he's been doing it a lot. I like that.
Absolutely.
Very good. That's good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Sorry. You get it? No.
Okay. How old are you?
12.
Just checking.
I told you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. This is a very special day here. This entire week we're talking about priorities, the things that we want to focus on, the things that we should focus on, the things that are important. And we're really thrilled right now because we have a very special guest with us here right now, Todd Daniel, and he is a special care planner from Mass Mutual. And we want him to tell us exactly what that means. What's a special care planner?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I
Thank you for being here.
For offering me to be here. The Special Care Planner program was developed over 15 years ago by Mass Mutual. The Home Office decided to put a training program together to train their specific planners on how to work with families with kids with special needs. So the American College, which is the governing body of all our educational designations, put a course together for Mass Mutual professionals. So for the last 15 years, Mass Mutual agents and planners were the only ones that can get this designation. It basically gave us detailed information and just the wherewithal to understand what it takes to go and work with families with special needs. We had a psychologist was the proctor of our course. We met with Social Security officers, CPAs, attorneys, special needs trust attorneys, doctors. The 3.5 days of just knowledge and information coming in, and it really gave us the ability to go out there and work with the public and help these people plan for the future.
Because let's face it, there are a special set of circumstances, special questions that we want to know. We have special concerns. When you and I were talking yesterday, you brought up something that was very poignant to both you and I, the idea that in a typical family, a parent hopes that they will not outlive their child.
Correct.
They want their child to live longer than them. Mm-hmm. But you were pointing out to me that in families like my own, where there's a special needs child, it's the reverse.
Well, it's a very, insightful comment that was made that the special needs parent wants to outlive their child by one day, because they know that no one will take care of them the way that the parent can. And it really hit home when I was explaining that, and it does make a lot of sense. And my job is to help those parents plan for that, not just if they passed prematurely. What happens when they're 67 years old and physically cannot take care of their child anymore? So this is all the different planning that we take them through. It's very important to make sure the parents understand that there's somebody out there that can specialize in this. You know, you have therapists, you have doctors, you have all the different people that are involved in your child's life to help them grow and help them learn. We're the other specialists.
Yeah.
We're the ones that will do that for them.
And it's really pretty remarkable. And right now, for families that are watching that say, okay, I have some trepidation about this. I'm not sure that I want to talk about this, but I'm making the decision to. They're offered a free 30-minute consultation about these matters. Is that correct?
Right. We are not a fee-based company. So for us to sit down and discuss the planning process, there's no fee involved. So even if it's just to ask questions, even if it's over the phone or through email, that's my job. I'm here to help them. The planning process really, it only is a matter of time. The ideal situation would be to gather financial and data on the situation at hand, and then I analyze it, and then we set up a strategy. So again, all through that process, there's no fee. Okay. So it's really the only, and it's funny, the only problem we run into with families with kids with autism or cerebral palsy or Down syndrome, all the different spectrums that we work with, is the time to actually gather that data and take the time to sit down. And that's really the most difficult part, is finding the time. But once they do that, it's pretty much a piece of cake.
And can really create some peace of mind for you and for your entire family. It's a really beneficial thing to do. So we're going to take a break, but before we take a break, we want to make sure that you've got a place that you can go to find out more information from Mass Mutual about this program. So Emily's got a website for you to go to for Mass Mutual. Make sure that once you go to Mass Mutual that you check out the special care planning portion. That's really what you want to know more information about. And then Todd has also given us his phone number if you want to contact him directly to ask him some questions along this line, or to have that sort of consultation that we were just talking about. We are going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about what that consultation looks like. What are the questions that are going to be asked, so that we can all take a breath and get rid of the unknown, right? Perfect. And I promised you at the start of the show that if you'll get through this difficult conversation, we have a little treat for you at the end. We're going to show you the viral video keyboard kitty at the end. That's your reward for having gone through the tough conversations with us here, right? So we've got a little silliness at the end, so we're going to take care of some serious business that needs to be taken care of, and then we'll let you be silly at the end of the show. So stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be making a mandala. Mandala, you ask? What's that? Well, in Sanskrit, that means circle. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Okay, the materials you'll be needing for this project are colored paper, scissors, and glue. I'm assuming a lot of you guys have made paper snowflakes before. Well, this is the same idea, except for we're going to be doing it with A, lots of color, and then B, we're going to be layering it up. So, first step we're going to have to do is fold the piece of paper, so when we cut it out, there's going to be a repeating pattern on it. So what you're going to do is fold it in half. And then you're going to fold it in half again. Make sure your lines are super creased, okay? And you're going to keep doing this. You're going to keep folding it in half as many times as you can possibly fold your paper. So now that this is folded in half as many times as I physically can fold it, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out the excess. So here's the paper with all the excess cut off. If I open it up, boom, it's a circle, but it's missing all the wonderful patterns in here that repeat. So let's fold it back up. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the shapes in it, kind of like a snowflake. So get creative here. Remember, don't go all the way through, or else you're going to just cut in half. So have fun with it. Okay, since my paper is, as you saw earlier, double-sided with different colors, I'm gonna cut out the center part and I'm gonna flip it. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll see what I mean in a second. All right, so let's open this up and take a look at it. Ooh, so you see that? I've got a perfect circle with a repeating pattern, exactly what I wanted. All right, so I've cut out the center part that I cut out for my whole circle, and let's open it up. Look at that, it's another circle, but it's smaller. I'm gonna take this and place this in the inside. So the basic idea of the mandala is you're gonna take your construction paper, fold it like I just showed you, and then cut different sized triangles, which will turn into circles, so there'll be layers of colors with the pattern. And of course, while you're doing this, you can talk about colors and have them work on their cutting skills. So now that I've cut out several snowflakes, I am going to start gluing them down on a piece of paper. Here's my mandala. It looks pretty finished, and it can be. But if you have an older kid and you really, really want to hone in on working on pattern making, you can take this little scrap pieces that you cut out and have them add to the pattern themselves. Well, I hope you and your child enjoyed this project and learned a lot from it. Until next time, guys, craft on.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with Todd Daniel, and he is a special care planner from Mass Mutual, the only company that has a program that's specifically tailored to train people to be able to deal with the realities of special needs families, which I think is remarkable. We have to start with that. That's absolutely remarkable. And you were saying before the break that you're not a fee-based situation, so you can have a consultation to start to begin to plan. Correct. But I think people immediately, I'm a special needs parent, and I immediately go, what are they going to ask? What am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to... So let's talk a little bit about if you do the consultation, Todd, what happens? What do I need to know as a parent to be ready for that?
Well, basically, when we sit down, we're going to talk and answer any of your questions that you might have. The process, again, we gather data, we analyze it, and here's the key thing. When we're talking to a typical family, now they need to do the planning too. Yeah. They need to have the same discussions, whether it's education planning, retirement planning, weddings, whatever it might be. So that discussion is there with any family. Right. The difference would be is ideally, when the typical child is 18 and they go to college and they get a job and they get married and they move on, when we're talking with special needs families, a lot of times that won't happen. Right. So there's a lifetime need for care. Right. That's where we have to really put the strategy to work. That's where we have to develop whether or not and analyze whether the person will need a special needs trust or not. If so, how are we going to fund it? Are we going to fund it with your assets today? Are we going to use life insurance? What are we going to do? The other problem is to make sure that none of the special needs children are the beneficiaries of any of the current plans. Now this is very key, and it comes up a lot of times with the 529 education plans. Okay. You have one for your child, let's say. Okay. You're the owner, the child is the beneficiary, and you've been saving for years now, and let's say there's $10,000 in it. Well, if something happened to you, your son would now inherit that $10,000. Well, guess what? We know that the $2,000 limit for government benefits could be in danger right now. So we have to make sure and guide you to make sure that none of these plans have a child as a beneficiary. Okay. So certain nuances like that, retirement plans, God forbid something happened to you, your child can't inherit $250,000 from your 401k, especially if they're over 18, they're living in a group home, they're on government benefits, they'll lose all their benefits. Okay. So this is a lot of the education that we do, not just the number crunching and the planning. So that's the important thing, is to make sure that today everything's set up as best as possible, and then we move forward with the client.
Okay, so I don't have to already know what the answer is when I sit down to have the discussion with you guys. You're going to open the discussion up and you're going to give me the information to make the informed decision.
Correct.
I think that's important.
I'm sorry, we're here just to educate.
Okay.
I can't make the decision for you. Right. I will lay out the map. You choose A, B, C. You also might just say, Todd, thank you for your time, and I'm not interested.
Right.
Okay. And I just hope that I've informed you, and I hope that at least maybe you can introduce me to somebody else that might be wanting to do the planning process.
Because we all need to do this at some point. You know, I was thinking about this morning in conjunction with something else, that whole thing about failure to plan is planning to fail.
Correct.
And we know that that's not an option with our kids. And our kids are not one size fits all. They're all different kinds. I mean, I had shared with you the other day that my plan for my child is that he is going to go off to college. My hope is that he is going to be gainfully employed, but I still have to get him to that point, and I still have a responsibility to build in that if he might be employed, but he might need support. And that's on me to figure that out. And I haven't yet. I'm just going to be honest with everybody that I have not figured that out yet. And I had mentioned that to you, that I'm sort of that target audience that I know I need to do it, but I'm scared.
Sure. There is the number one problem that we have with getting parents to step forward is out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to think about it. I can't think about it. If I don't think about it, it's never going to happen. And I understand. You know, in a lot of the seminars that I give, I have parents that are starting to tear up. They start to cry because they're thinking about, oh my God, who's going to take care of my child? And we're not assuming that it's going to happen. But accidents do happen, and we need a plan for that.
And I was very honest with you and said on the phone yesterday that I know that in the back of I'm a fairly intelligent person, but in the back of my head I have this fairy tale belief that if you have one thing go wrong in your life, that's it. That's the card you've been dealt, and nothing else bad is allowed to happen to you. That you have some, even as I say it, I go, that's ridiculous, right? But I like to believe that you won't be given more than you can handle, and this came up recently with a friend of the show, that she's got a child who's on the autism spectrum, diagnosed with lymphoma. And we all said, no, that's not allowed. It came out of everybody's mouth, that's not allowed, as if there is some rule. We all need to know that is fairy tale thinking.
Wow.
Anything could happen to anybody.
Unfortunately, you know, life isn't like the movies or the fairy tales. It's cruel at times. And you know, the real thing that I tell people a lot is, you know, I help with the things that keep you up at night.
Yes.
Those are the things that we take you through. And as I tell every parent, once you go through it, you're going to have this big burden off your shoulders. There's so much relief. And you can ask any of the parents that I've taken them through. It's not as hard as they thought. It really was painless. It gave me much more insight. It gave me so many things to think about that I never thought about before. And I've now asked who's going to take care of my child if something happens, and who's going to be there to help, and how do I get things set up? And then they say, wow, this was fantastic. And now the hard part's done. Now we just make modifications as things change, as the child grows, as other circumstances happen.
And it's powerful information. I always say that, you know, knowledge is power. And you brought up something yesterday, a letter of intent. Tell our audience what that is.
Well, letter of intent is a document. Now, Mass Mutual has it. We created one on a CD-ROM. It's literally pages and pages of questions about your child. Medication, information, hobbies, habits. You know, one of the parents that we work with, their son, when he has a meltdown, the only way to calm him down is to put him in a bath or a shower. Those types of things, because if something were to happen, we need to get all this information to the people that are going to be able to take care of them.
And to get it immediately instead of having to find it from 12 interviews and all these different sources.
Absolutely. As well as having it a copy at the school, parents, other family members, other friends that might come in contact and be there for the child. It's very detailed. And we always tell the parents to update it every year on the child's birthday. What's new? Well, he has different medications, or he now plays sports, so we want this involved. It's literally a blueprint of the child, and it's very key. You know, if I was to sit down and write out all the things I've done this morning, I woke up, showered, shaved, got dressed, came into the office, answered email, and I had to write that down. I mean, that'd be pages in just a 5-hour period.
Right.
The fact of a lifetime worth of knowledge, this is just, it's writable. So you just keep typing and going and going and going. You make copies, we forward it to families and friends, and it's been very, very highly commended throughout the industry.
It's a powerful tool, and it's just one of the many tools that Todd has available for us. So I really want to encourage you. We're calling this May. It's a cleanup month where we do take care of the things that we need to take care of. This is a month where we can all be accountable to each other, that we need to start to do this. I'm going to do that this month. I'm going to make sure that I have this consultation. I want to encourage you guys to do that as well. So Emily will put Todd's phone number up, and remember, you can also go to massmutual.com. You'll look for the special care planning to figure out how you begin this process, figuring out what's going to happen. We're going to take another short break, and when we come back, you guys can ask questions. If you have questions for Todd, I'm going to ask some questions, because we want to start to demystify. If we start to understand, oh, this is what I need to do, then it takes away some of the fear, that unknown, so we can get to the good part, which is being solid. Think about how good it would feel if you could say, I know what happens to me. I know what happens to my child if something happens to me. How much better would we be sleeping? We all need to reduce our stress. This is one of the things that we're going to do. All right, stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to Talk of Facts. We hear questions all the time, and we want to give you the answers that help make your journey in autism easier and more navigatable. Less than a year ago, we interviewed the top 100 doctors in the United States working with children on the spectrum, and we asked them a question in the cloak of secrecy. What are the top 3 mistakes parents living with autism do? Number 1, and the one that makes me laugh the most, is when they use their physician as a marriage and family therapist. 1, the doctors told me it made them uncomfortable, and 2, they were highly unqualified to provide that type of advice. So the night before your physician appointment with your MAPS doctor, get together with your spouse, significant other, and write out the list of the targets and the agenda that you want to cover at the physician's appointment. Get in sync. Then you'll be definitely spending less time and not making that doctor so uncomfortable. Second thing that was the most common mistakes parents living with autism make is they want to go too fast. And really, you want to pace yourself in the autism journey. We all know that we want to get our kid to be the best they can be and hopefully recover from autism. And what a lot of the doctors have told me is that you want to really pace yourself. 1, to let the labs be your guide, and 2, work with your physician on the prioritization and the delivery of the different medical interventions. The third most common mistake they felt families made was giving up too soon. And what you need to know is they're invested, they're looking at wanting to get the best from your child. But I tell you that when I got that and consolidated the 100 interviews with these physicians, most of the doctors who brought that up had tears in their eyes. They want you to know that they're in the fight with you, and they want you to know that hope is really real. It may take hard work and it may take time, but to not give up and to stay in the game. So let TACA help you. We'll have some more TACA facts for you in the future, real questions and real answers for the autism journey.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here right now with Todd Daniel. He is a special care planner for Mass Mutual, and we're talking about what that means. This entire month of May, we're talking about, for me, it feels like the beginning of a brand new year, the beginning of May. And we've just finished Autism Awareness Month, Autism Action Month, Autism Advocacy Month, and I always feel May 1st like we're starting anew. It's a new year. What are we going to do here? And this is it's spring cleaning month. It's the time to get things in order. It's the time to check in on your New Year's resolutions, look at what am I doing, what am I not doing, what should I be doing. And so thrilled to have Todd here with us talking about planning for the unthinkable. It's the one thing none of us wants to do. It's the mess none of us wants to look at or clean up, right?
Correct.
But we have to. If we're going to be the best possible parent, then we've got to at least take a look at it. We got to face it. And as you were saying in the last segment, when we face it, it quiets the fears and we can sleep better. I mentioned to you guys that you can go to, Todd is here in California where we are, and we put his phone number up, and you can call Todd and be able to speak to him directly. But you should know, he is not the only special care planner. MassMutual has them all around the United States. And if you go to massmutual.com, find the special care planning section, and you can let them know what area you're in and be hooked up with a planner in your area. So this is all over. Todd's remarkable, and he's here with us, and I know you want to talk to him, and if you're in California, you can. But if you're not, this is there for you as well. So we want to make sure that we know that. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that you have this consultation and the kinds of questions that you ask, because there are lots of different things to talk about whether you want conservatorship, whether you want a trustee, all of these things. I don't even know what those words actually mean in conjunction with a child. So talk to us, Todd. Tell us what we need to know.
Well, when we meet with our parents, we take them through what we call the life care planning process. It's 10 different steps. Ideally, for example, the first one is, the vision for your child. If something were to happen, what do you want to have happen for your child? What do you want their life to be like if something were to happen? And then we break it all down. But the key points that we talk about, we also cover the letter of intent, which we discussed already, but guardian and conservatorship. Now, in California, all states are different, but in California, technically guardian and conservator means the same thing.
Okay.
You're their guardian if they're under 18. You would be their conservator after 18. Now, it's very important. In the United States, the way the government views guardian and conservatorship, once your child's 18, and if they need you to make decisions for them, you actually have to go to court and apply for permanent or limited conservatorship. So it's not just, it's going to happen. So any child, no matter what their mental or physical capacity is, at 18, they become an adult. And they make their own decisions. So now you have to come in and actually go through a process to get conservatorship.
Yes, and I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but in California, you really need to start that process at 16. That's the one thing that's been drilled into my mind, is that if it looks like that, you need to start filing the papers at 16.
Well, we call 15 and 16 the transition stage, and that's part of the transition process. This is also some of the things that we work with our parents to do.
Great.
Some of the other concerns with or discussions on the life care plan is, wills and trusts, whether or not you need a special needs trust or not. Now, a lot of families can't afford a special needs trust. You're looking at $2,000 to $5,000 to $8,000 depending on the size of the trust and the living trust as well. So a lot of things have to be just set up otherwise. Some families that can't afford that. We can still do planning. We can still ensure that the government benefits aren't in danger. We just have to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's properly. So that is very key when we sit down with them.
Really important to know, because I think a lot of people just think, well, I can't afford a trust, so there's no point having this conversation. But you're saying there are other things that need to be done besides that. So pretty much anybody you can fit into some sort of a planning, no matter what the financial situation is, they need to be planning.
Yes, there are steps to be taken and things that need to be set up to protect them.
Okay, great.
Now, some of the other things, for example, we talked about trusts.
Yes.
So now let's say somebody developed a special needs trust and they wanted to be the trustee. Well, you could assign a trustee, but sometimes people don't necessarily have someone that can do that, or they're worried about, well, Uncle Joe would be great, but Uncle Joe gambles once in a while, so we don't want him to have all this money at his fingertips. So there's a lot of companies that have their own trust department. Well, MassMutual has their own special needs trust department. They only specialize in managing and running special needs trust. I don't believe any other company has that. And what that can do is it could pay bills automatically. It could set up payment plans for internet, phones, computer, it could handle all that. And then maybe Uncle Joe can call up once in a while and say, hey, we need to buy something special for him. We need to get a check sent over. So you have that availability and you have that extra protection, because you don't necessarily want to turn over all these
Right.
assets. Plus, if you have a special needs trust, it has to do its own tax return every year. A lot of people aren't familiar with that, so the trust company can do that for them as well.
Okay, so lots of options
Yes.
within that. It could be that you make somebody who in the family the trustee, but if that sounds really like it's not going to work for you, there are other options as well.
Absolutely.
So, and again, a special care planner can walk you through that and say, here are the options, and you get to decide.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, they might say that my aunt, or the child's aunt, your sister, would
Right.
want to be the caregiver.
Right.
She's great with that, but she's not good with money. She couldn't balance a checkbook if her life depended on it.
Yeah.
Well, who else could do it then? Well,
Right.
it might not be anybody else. It might need to be the trust department.
Okay, super duper important. Options. Okay, and then in terms of, you mentioned wills. So if you're doing a trust, do you need to do a will also?
When they do a trust, the will go with it.
Okay.
The attorney will draw that up, and I work with many special needs trust attorneys. And I will say this is very key. Do not just assume that your average estate planning attorney is really good at special needs trusts.
Yeah.
You need to find a special needs trust attorney that only does that, because here's the big concern. The trust is written up, the parent passes, now we go to access the trust information and it's done wrong.
Okay, and then it's
too late. It's going to be months and months and months spent in court trying to undo something that's just destroyed everything.
Right. And honestly, I will say, you know, those of you who watch the show regularly, we just lost my mom a year and a half ago, and it is another level of waking up and going, okay, if you don't have this in order, this is how long things drag out. And there's no special needs child attached to that, but it's you don't want to leave that with your child. Make sure that you're empowering the people, make sure you're identifying who you want your child to go with, and that you're empowering those people to be able to do what you want done with your child.
Absolutely.
Not what they want to do.
And one other thing, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of parents will say, well, he or she has a sibling.
Right.
So now if the typical sibling wants to care for their brother and sister, great. But a lot of parents just assume it. Well, what happens if that child wants to go to college in New York, or they want to move to a different state? Well, now you're forcing a burden on them that they might want but might not want to have.
Yeah.
This planning process will help you work around that.
Okay, because I imagine if there's a trustee, if you can have the siblings still involved, but if there's a trustee, it relieves some of that burden.
Absolutely.
Whether it's somebody from Mass Mutual or somebody else in the family, I love the idea of splitting it up so that it's not all on one person, because very few people are good at all things.
Sure.
Right?
That's for sure.
Okay, so we're going to take another break. This is all good information, and we're going to come back. And if you guys have questions about planning for what happens when you're no longer there, should that ever happen, we're keeping fingers crossed that it doesn't, right?
Correct.
But better to have the plan and be safe than sorry. So if you have questions, write those in on the live feature right now. Stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with Todd Daniel. He is a special care planner for Mass Mutual. Thrilled to have him here giving us information. Information is power, and we need to be empowered about planning for the worst possible case scenario should something happen to us and there's our child. We want to know that our child is taken care of. So you brought up wills and you brought up trusts, and I had questions during the break because I am singularly uneducated in this field. So talk to us a little bit about the difference between a will and a trust. And you mentioned, whether it's $2,000, $5,000, or $8,000. I've always thought that setting up a trust was for people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around someplace. And since I'm not that person, I thought I was left out of that. So talk to us about who should be doing this.
Well, again, I'm not an attorney.
Right.
To do a will properly, to do a living trust, you need to talk to an attorney. But I can give some education on that. Basically, a will is just a direction. So, for example, I want you to have my watch if I die. Okay. I'm telling you right now, you're going to get my watch. So I die, and we go to probate, we go to court, and you say, I'm supposed to get his watch.
He promised me. I have it on camera.
That's right. But then somebody from some distant relative comes and shows up and says, well, 2 days ago, he said, I get the watch.
Okay.
So now the big issue is probate.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, the way the courts are going right now, probate is at about a 2-year waiting period. So who gets what? Who gets this? Now, even a will, I sign the piece of paper, you get my watch. I even notarize it, and I say here. That could still be fought in probate. People they might not win,
right.
But this is where you hear all the families coming in from out of town and saying, this is mine, and I'm supposed to get this or not. Right. So the next step above that is to really get what is called a living trust.
Okay.
A living trust is written up by an attorney, and basically think about a giant bucket. Everything you own goes in this. Every checking account, your home, retirement accounts, anything will be owned by this trust. And the nice thing about that is it's a legal document and it's set up, of course. Now, if you're married, husband, wife gets the trust, but upon the second death, it goes straight through to your beneficiaries, to whoever wants it. There is no probate.
Okay.
So it already has its own directions. So that's very key. Okay. So if you want everything to go to your children or your child or to somebody else, there's no disputing that. So that's a great piece.
Trust.
Living trust.
Okay.
Now, a special needs trust is completely set up. A living trust is a revocable, meaning you can go in and out. I buy a new house, I sell it, I get a new car, I open up a new account. I can change it. An irrevocable trust, which is what a special needs trust is basically what's in there stays in there. And it's only there for the special needs child. Okay? So a lot of times parents will want to start to fund the special needs trust early. You can do that, but I always say the easiest way to do it is to use either upon death, the assets, or life insurance to fund this trust. And the nice thing about it is you could have $1 million sitting in that trust. It will not affect the government benefits of any child. Okay. So
very important.
Very key. Very key. And that then has its own directions of what the trust is there for. So let's say you put together your trust and you say, I want my child to be able to go to Disney World every year. I want this to happen. He plays Xbox all the time. I want to make sure he's got as many games. This all goes into the declaration of that special needs trust. Okay. So upon death, those instructions will follow through in everything you want. So that's why it has to be done by a special needs attorney. It has to be done right. So now, again, this is just average.
Right.
Family, house, living trust, basic living trust, you're looking at around $2,500.
Okay, to get that
done. And it's a one-time fee.
Okay.
Now, if you have to continue to make changes after change after changes, the attorney will charge maybe revision charges, but it's not going to be that amount. It's not going to be like $2,500 each time. It might be another $250 each time. And most of them put in like 4 or 5 revisions automatically. Okay. Now, special needs trust, average, plain vanilla, roughly $2,500 as well. Okay. So you're looking at about $5,000. Now, if the family now has 3 houses and 5 businesses and it's much more detailed and 15 kids, then that, of course, those fees can go up.
It's like taxes. The more papers there are, the more it's going to cost you to do it.
Absolutely. So again, that's up for the attorney. Now, the difference between what I do and what an attorney does is I do all this work and hand it to the attorney, and they write it all up.
Got it.
They don't analyze your finances. They don't analyze your needs. They don't put the calculations together. They do the documentation to set up the trusts, the wills, and the living special needs trusts. We do everything in between it. We do all the gathering because they're not the ones that will help you with your financial planning. But they're very key because once they put it together for you, then again, you get to sleep better at night, you rest, and you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so going back to the beginning of what we were talking about, it's key that all of us should at least do the consultation. Every single special needs parent should at least do the consultation to find out where they're at, where they need to get, and get some options available to them.
I will tell you this, every parent should do a consultation like this. Now, I've been with Mass Mutual for, this is my 25th year. I've had my designation since 2010. So the planning process is in the same. And even when I meet with a special needs parent, the planning process, again, whether we need education, what are our financial situations, I'm saving for a home, I have a home, I need to retire someday. All that planning is the same. Then we also have this other compartment over here called a special needs child, which has to work together. They have to talk to each other. We have to have it all set up. And if it's not, it's detrimental. So every parent needs to go through this same discussion about wills and trusts and planning and college planning and retirement. They all have to do that. There's so many people I meet with now that have made huge mistakes in their finances, cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars because they just were not given the proper information.
Right. Key to get the right information. And imagine that's so stressful if you're an adult and going through that, but imagine if you weren't here and your child who's on the spectrum is going through that. You know, it's unthinkable.
We really have the issue of like I met with some parents last week, and their comment was, we don't want Aunt Susie to be in charge of it. That's our biggest fear.
Right.
So it's not just who's going to take care of them, but who do we not want to be involved in their life. So again, this is all the things that we help you figure out. And it's again, it's like any type of a plan. It just has to be set up. And then once it's done, then little modifications can be changed, just like the living trust.
Maintenance.
We do it once, and then we just maintain it.
Okay, really important information. We thank you so much. Again, you can go to massmutual.com, go to special care planning to find someone in your area to do that for you, to do that consultation. Or if you are in the Los Angeles area, you can meet with Todd himself. And so I encourage everybody to do that. By the end of the month, I'm going to get this done so that I can report back to you guys and say I at least did the consultation, right? It's all about progress.
That's right.
Progress is important. Okay, well, we thank you so much for being here. I promised our audience that if they got through the tough discussion, that we were going to give a little treat. We have Keyboard Cat all set up for you. So Emily, help me to know. So we're going to show Keyboard Cat, and then I'll get just like a couple of minutes at the end to sign off. Well, okay, so we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna show you Keyboard Cat. This is your reward, but stick around for the end of the show. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back. We're at the end. We're past the end. We're over time. But I wanted a second to talk to you about tomorrow's show and actually Thursday's show. Tomorrow, normally on Wednesdays we have Dr. Doreen Grampachet with us, and we were planning on having her tomorrow, but our Skype connection is not strong enough where she is. So we have a wonderful opportunity instead tomorrow. We're going to do 2 hours of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. My co-host Nancy Alspaugh Jackson will be with me. In the first hour, we have David Farkas is going to be with us. He has an organization that's called Polo Buddies, where they're teaching water polo to kids on the autism spectrum. We were at the Fullerton Cares Mardi Gras for Autism and met them, and it's an amazing program. So excited as we're moving into summer months and we're talking about water safety and water sports with kids. This is kind of an amazing new twist, doing water polo with kids on the autism spectrum and how it affects their self-esteem. So that's in the first hour with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And in the second hour, we're going to have William Stillman with us. He is an amazing gentleman who is on the autism spectrum and author of the book Autism and the God Connection. So we're going to be talking about priorities and about how does religion and God fit into this, and talking to this amazing young man who has really been making a difference across this country and across the world as he goes and speaks on a variety of different subjects. I promise you it's an hour that you won't want to miss. So all of that tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we will have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox back in the studio with us answering your questions. So make sure that you tune in. That's all the time that we have for today. Make sure you give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.